Hello, horror listeners. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button for the channel. Also, make sure to tell us in the comments how you like the story and from where you are watching or listening. If you want to hear any specific story, feel free to request it. Now let's begin the story. I never thought I'd end up working the night shift at a Dollar Tree in the middle of nowhere. But life doesn't exactly wait for you to be ready. After my divorce, I swore I'd never step foot in another dead-end job. For 6 years, I'd been a receptionist at a family dentist's office in Bangor, Maine. I knew every patient's birthday, every kid's favorite sticker, even which ones would scream before they saw the chair. Then the practice downsized, and just like that, I was let go. My ex-husband's alimony covered the bare minimum, rent for my tiny apartment above a laundromat in Millwood, a town barely big enough to be on most maps. Groceries, gas, utilities, that was on me. I told myself Dollar Tree was temporary. 3 months, maybe 6 tops. Just enough to stabilize. But 8 months later, I was still clocking in at Dollar Tree number 4932 on Route 6, just past the Millwood Turnpike. Not glamorous, but it gave me structure. Nights were predictable, sometimes even comforting in their dullness. The store closed to customers at 1 a.m., but the night shift was about more than locking the doors. I'd sweep and mop the linoleum floors that always smelled faintly of bleach, restock the shelves in the seasonal aisle, and count down the register till it balanced to the penny. The fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered sometimes, and the hum of the refrigeration units filled the silence like background music. Most nights I was alone. Company policy said we should have 2 people after midnight, but Millwood was small, and corporate never seemed to care. By 11 p.m., the customers thinned to a trickle. Truckers stopping for snacks, teens grabbing energy drinks before joyrides, the occasional mom who looked too exhausted to care that her toddler was still awake. I made small talk when I could, but most nights ended the same. Just me, the shelves, and the constant tick of the lottery machine clock at the register. I brewed stale coffee for anyone who might wander in. Sometimes Officer Riley from the Millwood PD would stop by for a cup around midnight. "You really should get corporate to add another clerk," he'd say, stirring in 4 sugars. "I've been telling them," I'd reply with a tired smile. "They say we don't have the traffic to justify it." "Well, it only takes one wrong kind of traffic," he'd mutter before tipping his hat. It was a Thursday night in late October when the first strange thing happened. The front door chimed at 12:47 a.m. I looked up expecting another trucker. Instead, a man stepped inside. He was short, wiry, with neatly combed gray hair. His khaki pants were pressed, his pale blue shirt tucked perfectly, and his brown loafers were scuffed but clean. He carried no phone, no wallet, just a single folded dollar bill between 2 fingers. "Evening," I said with my best cashier's smile. "Evening," he replied, voice low and smooth. He wandered the candy aisle slowly, almost too slowly, before choosing a roll of peppermints and a bottle of spring water. When he placed them on the counter, I tried to lighten the silence. "Quiet night, huh?" He looked up at me, hazel eyes reflecting the harsh fluorescent glow. "Quiet," he said after a pause. "Quiet can be misleading." I laughed nervously and bagged his items. The register spat out his receipt. As I handed him the change, his hand shot forward and closed around my wrist. Not hard, not painful, just steady, controlled. His breath smelled faintly of mint and damp soil. He leaned closer. "Be careful, miss," he whispered, each word precise. "There is a devil all the time." I froze. Then as suddenly as he grabbed me, he let go, slipped the peppermints into his shirt pocket, and walked out. The chime dinged as the door closed behind him. I watched through the glass, waiting for the sound of a car engine, headlights, anything. But there was nothing. The parking lot was empty. For the next few nights, I convinced myself it was nothing. Just an eccentric old man with a taste for theatrics. Still, I double-checked the locks, glanced over my shoulder more often, and found myself jumping at small noises. On Monday night, the rain came down steady. At 12:55, I was counting down the till when headlights swept across the front window, then vanished. A white panel van idled near the curb. No logo, no plates, just smooth white metal. My stomach tightened. The passenger door swung open. A man in a hooded sweatshirt and black mask strode toward the entrance. pistol in hand. "Register! Now!" he barked. My hands shot up. Okay, I stammered, pulling open the drawer and sliding the bills across the counter. "Safe," he demanded. "It's on a timer," I said, my voice trembling. 12-hour lock. I can't open it." He cursed, grabbed the cash, and bolted. The van peeled out, tires spitting water, no headlights on. I hit the silent alarm. 10 minutes later, Millwood PD was combing through the store. We huddled in the back office watching grainy CCTV footage. The masked man was visible enough, but when the passenger door of the van slammed, the dome light flicked on, just for a second, enough to show a profile. Gray hair, pale shirt collar, narrow shoulders. "That's him," I blurted, pointing at the screen. "The man from Thursday." Detective Lauren Avery from the state police called me 2 days later. They'd found a white panel van abandoned down a logging trail near Pine Ridge State Forest, 20 minutes east. A shoe print by the driver's door matched one lifted from our Dollar Tree floor. Inside the forest, officers uncovered a crude campsite, tarps strung between trees, folding chairs, boxes of stolen cigarettes and scratched lottery tickets. 3 men were there, 2 younger, both with Massachusetts records, and the older one, Harold Benton, 71, of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. When they cuffed him, he said only one thing, calm and deliberate: "There is a devil all the time." A week later, Detective Avery called again. Search teams had widened their sweep. They found a second, older site, half collapsed. In the fire pit were charred bones, melted coins, and the blackened remains of a clerk's driver's license. A clerk who had vanished 3 years ago during a Vermont holdup. Benton's 2 younger partners broke quickly under questioning, but Benton himself, he stayed silent. Except sometimes when no one was addressing him, he'd murmur, numbers, dates, and always the same phrase. "There is a devil all the time." Corporate finally changed the policy, 2 clerks on shift after midnight. But the store somehow feels emptier than ever. Sometimes when the parking lot is still and the coolers hum like a heartbeat, I remember Benton's eyes, calm, certain, unblinking. And I wonder, did he mean there is one devil always watching, or did he mean there are many? Story 2. I was 21 years old the first winter I started working overnights at the Dollar Tree on Hudson Avenue in a mid-sized town called Mapleton, Oregon. It wasn't the kind of job you bragged about, not to friends, not to family, but it was the kind of job that kept the heat on in our little rental duplex after my dad's hours at the lumber mill were cut in half. I'd always pictured myself somewhere else by then, maybe at Oregon State, buried in biology labs and hiking the trails on weekends. But after 2 semesters of community college drained what little savings I had, reality set in. Tuition didn't pay itself, and FAFSA didn't stretch far enough when your household income sat in that gray zone. Too much for grants, not enough to survive. So I put school on hold. I picked up shifts where I could, stocking groceries at Winco, washing dishes at a diner. But when a friend of mine, Matt, told me Dollar Tree needed night staff, I applied. The store closed at midnight during the week, 2 a.m. on weekends. The work was simple: face shelves, unload boxes, keep the aisles clean. At first I didn't mind it. The fluorescent lights were bright, the staff was small, and our manager, Russell, was one of those older guys who covered worry with corny jokes. He'd shuffle in wearing his green Dollar Tree vest and say things like, "All right, team, let's make these dollar deals shine like gold." Everyone rolled their eyes, but we liked him. I worked Friday through Sunday nights, usually with 3 others. Dana, a 24-year-old nursing student who always carried flashcards in her pocket, quizzing herself between customers. Eddie, a single dad in his 30s, steady and quiet, who came in tired but never complained. Maria, my age, who had this laugh that could break tension in any room. She wanted to study graphic design, but couldn't afford art school yet. We weren't family, but we were close in the way night crews get close. Tired together, laughing at weird customers, complaining about shipments, drinking too much bad coffee from the Circle K across the street. I thought it would just be another in-between job, a footnote in my 20s. But one night in February 2004 changed that forever. That Friday, I'd traded my shift with Maria so I could drive to Portland for my cousin's birthday. It was raining. a slow, steady drizzle that blurred the city lights. After dinner, I was standing outside under an awning, flipping my jacket collar up, when my old Nokia buzzed in my pocket. The screen said Dollar Tree. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Hello? It was Russell, only it didn't sound like Russell. His voice was flat, low, like someone had squeezed the air out of him. I need you to come down here, he said. What's going on? He paused. I could hear the rain pattering harder against his phone. They're gone. My stomach tightened. What do you mean, gone? He exhaled, shaky. Just get here, please. The drive back to Mapleton felt longer than it ever had. Every stoplight stretching out. Every set of headlights in the rain smeared like oil on water. By the time I turned onto Hudson Avenue, I saw them. 2 police cruisers angled across the Dollar Tree lot. Red and blue lights spinning against the wet asphalt. Another unmarked sedan sat by the loading dock. I pulled up and an officer stepped into my headlights, hand raised. Before I could even roll down the window, I saw Russell standing behind the tape. No cap, hair plastered to his forehead, face as pale as chalk. He waved me through. When I got out, my boots splashed into shallow puddles. The entrance doors were strung with yellow tape that fluttered in the damp wind. The store I'd walked into dozens of times suddenly felt foreign, wrong. Russell met me halfway. His voice cracked when he spoke. They're gone, man. Dana, Eddie, Maria. It didn't register. Couldn't. Gone where? He just turned, eyes glassy, and led me toward the darkened store. Inside, the overhead lights were off. Only the dim green glow of exit signs painted shadows over the aisles. A detective in a rain jacket nodded at us, then motioned toward the registers. The drawers were pulled out, coins scattered like they'd been shaken. Behind them, the little office door was open, the safe inside wide like a mouth mid-scream. They took about $8 grand, Russell muttered. That's more than we ever keep. Had to be Friday's deposit, too. We moved toward the stockroom. That's when the smell hit me. Gunpowder mixed with something metallic, sharp in my throat. And then I saw them, face down on the floor, arms tucked under, each with a neat wound in the back of the head, execution style. I stumbled back, my chest caving in. My legs carried me to the rear door, out into the alley where I doubled over and retched until there was nothing left. The rain came down harder, soaking through my jacket. The detectives grilled us for hours. Who had keys? Who'd been fired? Who owed money? One name surfaced again and again: Calvin Reed. Calvin had managed the store until 6 months earlier, when Russell caught him skimming from the register. He hadn't argued. He hadn't yelled. He just looked at each of us, slow, deliberate, like he was memorizing our faces. By dawn, my mom picked me up. She didn't say a word the whole drive home. She didn't have to. The news called it the worst homicide in Mapleton history. They said Calvin came in before closing, forced them to open the safe, then marched them to the stockroom, and pulled the trigger. His mugshot was everywhere. Shaved head, dark eyes, expression unreadable. They found his girlfriend, Tasha Miller, guilty of driving the getaway car. She took a plea. 10 years. His cousin, Jerome, got time for accessory. But Calvin himself? Gone. The Dollar Tree closed for almost a month. When it reopened, the air inside never felt the same. Customers shopped like nothing had happened, but those of us who'd worked there carried it like a stone in our chest. Time went on. Mapleton grew. More strip malls, more traffic. But the murders stayed. They scarred the town. America's Most Wanted aired it in 2005. Unsolved Mysteries picked it up in 2006. Always the same caption: the suspect remains at large. Last winter, nearly 20 years later, the families of the victims held a vigil in the same parking lot. There were folding chairs under a tent, a table with framed photos, Dana smiling in her scrubs, Eddie fishing with his son, Maria mid-laugh in a red sweater. Candles flickered against the drizzle. The pastor asked if anyone who worked with them wanted to speak. My legs moved before I could think. My voice shook as I told them about Dana quizzing me on anatomy terms while we stocked shelves. About Eddie bringing me coffee from Circle K every night without fail. and about Maria drawing cartoons on cardboard boxes just to make us laugh. When I stepped back, my chest felt a little lighter. But then at the edge of the lot, I saw him, tall, straight-backed, hood pulled low, hands in pockets, standing where Pump 2 used to be before they tore down the gas station. He shifted just slightly, and I caught the outline of a tattoo above his waistband. A coiled snake. The same style Calvin Reed had inked across his stomach years ago. A bus rolled by, blocking my view. When it passed, he was gone. Maybe it was just some stranger with a snake tattoo. Or maybe Calvin had drifted back, curious to see how his work had aged. I didn't follow. I got in my truck, drove home, checked the mirror every few seconds. No headlights followed. But sometimes late at night, when I'm driving through town, I feel it. That weight, just beyond the headlights. Keeping pace. The FBI bulletin still says Calvin Reed could be living under another name, working a regular job, coaching Little League. People think fugitives vanish into the woods. Most don't. They blend in. And every time I pass a Dollar Tree, I hear Russell's voice in my head, raw over the phone that night. They're gone. Story 3. I never thought I'd be the kind of person working nights at a Dollar Tree in a town most people couldn't find on a map. At 22, I had other plans, or at least I thought I did. If you'd asked me at 18, I would have told you something about college in Boston, maybe working in digital media, maybe even photography. I used to picture myself renting a little studio apartment with creaky hardwood floors, walls covered in framed prints, and mornings spent editing photos over black coffee. But life doesn't wait for your plans to line up. In the fall of 2007, my dad had a stroke. He was only 54, a truck driver his whole life, and suddenly he couldn't work, couldn't drive, couldn't even stand without a walker. My mom picked up double shifts as a nurse, but it wasn't enough. I tried classes at the community college for a year, but tuition bills piled up fast. I dropped out, telling myself it would just be for a semester until things stabilized. That semester stretched on. Rent was due, groceries needed to be bought, prescriptions picked up. So when my cousin Drew mentioned a night shift opening at the Dollar Tree in Brookhaven, Vermont, population maybe 3,200, it felt less like a choice and more like inevitability. He said, "It's boring as hell, but the pay's steady. Nights are dead. If you can handle being alone, it's easy." Easy sounded good. Steady sounded even better. That's how I ended up wearing the green apron, name tag clipped to my chest. Ethan. The Dollar Tree sat on Maple Street, squeezed between a shuttered laundromat and an old Payless shoe source that had been vacant since I was in middle school. Brookhaven wasn't big. 2 gas stations, a Dunkin', a handful of family diners. Maple Street ran like the spine of the town, but after 9 p.m., it was dead quiet. By 10, the sidewalks might as well have been abandoned. Day shifts at the store were chaos. Parents with screaming kids, contractors picking up cheap supplies, retired folks arguing over coupons. But nights? Nights belonged to me, a mop bucket and the hum of the freezers. The first week, Rick, the manager, trained me. He was in his late 40s, hair thinning, always smelling faintly of chewing tobacco. He left at midnight most nights, jangling his keys like he couldn't get out fast enough. Lana, the part-timer, stocked the greeting cards until 11 and then disappeared. After that, it was just me. That first Tuesday night, Rick handed me the laminated checklist before leaving. "End caps look good," he said, pointing to the front aisles. "Mop the floor if you've got time. Oh, and don't prop the back door when you do trash." I frowned. "Why?" He adjusted his cap. Couple years back, some high school kid thought it'd be funny to toss a lit firecracker in while our cashier was out there. Scared the hell out of her. "Just lock it behind you when you go." I nodded, but the warning sat heavy in my stomach. By 2 a.m. that night, I'd restocked the seasonal aisle with plastic Easter eggs and neon baskets, swept debris into the dustpan, and stared at the wall clock like it was taunting me. The lot outside was empty except for one flickering street lamp. Across Maple Street, the old Sunoco station sat like a skeleton. Sign faded, pumps wrapped in yellow caution tape. Around 2:45, I hauled 3 trash bags to the dumpster out back. The lot was lit by one buzzing floodlight that cast more shadow than light. Beyond the dumpster was a tree line that seemed to swallow sound. I had just heaved the first bag in when I heard it. Click. Not a voice, not footsteps, just a slow, irregular metallic click, like something tapping pavement. I froze, eyes sweeping the shadows. "Hello," I said, my voice embarrassingly thin. Nothing. I tossed the other bags in fast and hurried back to the rear door. Locked it quick. My heart thudded like I'd run a mile. 10 minutes later, I was at the counter flipping through the nightly sales log when headlights swept across the front windows. A car pulled into the far corner of the lot, not in front of the store, but off to the left, half hidden by the sidewall. It idled there, engine low and steady. I stepped back, trying not to be visible through the glass. From the corner of the counter, I peeked. Silver sedan rust around the wheel wells. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out tall. Hood pulled up, hands in his pockets. He didn't come toward the entrance. He walked along the side of the building, slow and deliberate, like he was counting his steps. I pretended to straighten shelves near the door, keeping him in my periphery. He stopped under the streetlight, bent down, picked something up from the ground. Then he turned his head, sharply, unnaturally, and locked eyes with me through the glass. Even across that distance, I felt it. He knew exactly where I was. I grabbed the phone and dialed the non-emergency police line. "Brookhaven Police. This is dispatch." "Yeah, hi, this is Ethan. I'm at the Dollar Tree on Maple. There's a guy in the lot acting weird. Silver sedan, hoodie. Can you send someone by?" "Plate number?" she asked. I swallowed. I can't see it." "All right, we'll send a unit." 5 minutes later, a cruiser rolled through. By then, the sedan was gone. Officer Miller came inside, resting his hand on his belt. "Someone giving you trouble?" I told him what I'd seen. He frowned. "We've had a couple calls tonight. Guy lurking near the gas station. Might be nothing. Lock the doors if you feel off. We'll keep an eye out." It should have reassured me. It didn't. It didn't happen again for a few days. Then Friday, around 3:15 a.m., I saw the glow of headlights reflected in the glass. Same silver sedan, same spot. This time the driver didn't get out right away. I hovered near the phone. My pulse was hammering. Finally, the door opened. He stepped out, hood pulled tight, that same slow walk. He stopped directly in front of the store. Didn't try the handle. Didn't move closer. Just bent down, placed something on the pavement, and walked back to his car. He drove off with the headlights off, disappearing into the dark stretch of Maple Street. I waited a full minute before unlocking the door. On the ground where he'd stood was my name tag, the one I'd lost earlier that week and had assumed had fallen behind the register. I picked it up with shaking hands. 2 nights later, the local news ran a short piece. "Gas station clerk assaulted. Suspect still at large." The details made me sick. No money stolen, no robbery attempt. The man had taken the clerk's employee badge. I couldn't sleep that day. When I finally did, my dreams were full of headlights sweeping dark walls, the sound of something metallic tapping pavement. By the following week, I couldn't take it anymore. Rick found me at the counter one morning, apron folded, keys set neatly beside the register. "You quitting?" he asked. I nodded. "Can't hack the hours." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. I walked out, the automatic doors sliding shut behind me, sunlight spilling across Maple Street. I didn't look back, but even now, years later, driving down Maple at night, I sometimes see it. Headlights cutting suddenly off, a silver sedan rolling silent into the shadows, waiting. Story 4. I never imagined my life would circle back to the very neighborhood I once swore I'd leave behind. When I was 16, I used to tell my friends I'd move out west, California, maybe Arizona, somewhere with sun year-round, where palm trees lined the streets and life moved at its own rhythm. But then my father had a stroke when I was 21, and all those plans evaporated. That was 2020. My mom, Rosa, worked double shifts as a home health aide, and my younger brother, Mateo, was still in high school. Someone had to step up. That someone ended up being me. Instead of finishing my associate's degree in business at community college, I dropped out and picked up every job I could find. grocery stocker, UPS seasonal driver, even sweeping floors at a strip mall for cash. The problem was nothing stuck. Hours got cut, or the places closed down during COVID, and soon enough, bills stacked higher than I could keep up with. By 2022, the Dollar Tree job was the only thing left on the table. They offered overnight stocking shifts at the store on Broadway Avenue in Hartford, Connecticut. Not glamorous, but it paid a little extra for nights, and that extra kept the lights on in our apartment. The first night I walked into that Dollar Tree, I remember the fluorescent buzz hitting me like static. The floor tiles were scratched to hell, and the air smelled faintly like mop water mixed with plastic packaging. A dull space, but it became my second home. I'd clock in at 10:45 p.m. The manager, Daryl, a wiry man with a permanent 5 o'clock shadow and a laugh like gravel, would hand me the clipboard. "Boxes came in late again," he muttered once, sliding it over. "They always come in late. Break 'em down aisle by aisle. You know the drill." I knew the drill. Slice open cardboard, shelve the dollar candles, off-brand candy, cleaning spray, cheap toys that rattled like they'd fall apart before you reached the register. Sometimes we had customers, though the store technically closed at 10 o'clock. Daryl didn't care if someone slipped in through the side door when we were restocking. Cash was cash. Mostly night owls, cab drivers, college kids, or insomniacs wandering in for ramen or detergent. The loneliness hit harder than the work. My friends from school stopped texting me back months before. "Come out, bro," they'd write, and I'd always answer, "Can't, got work." Eventually, the invites stopped, so my world shrank to my mom, Mateo, and the night shift at Dollar Tree. It was a Thursday in early February, bone-deep cold outside. I was on break in the storage room, leaning against a stack of paper towel boxes, chewing a stale granola bar, scrolling Instagram. That's when the notification popped up. New follower request, Maya_23. Her profile picture showed a girl about my age. Long dark hair, hazel eyes, leaning against a railing somewhere, with city lights behind her. She had that half smile people wear when they know they're being looked at. I almost ignored it. Fake accounts were everywhere. But curiosity got me. I clicked through her feed. Not brand new. Photos went back years. Her with a dog, blurry mirror selfies, even a couple at a diner with milkshakes. 2,700 followers. Comments looked real enough, except most of them were men. Always men. Still, I followed her back. Within minutes, a message lit up. Maya. "Hey, you're cute. Saw you on Tinder." That tracked. I had my Insta linked in my Tinder bio. Me. "Lol, hey, you live around Hartford?" Maya. "Yeah, like 15 minutes from you. What about you?" Me. "Near Broad Street." Maya. "Nice. What do you do?" Me. "Night shift at Dollar Tree. Nothing exciting." Maya. "Hey, work is work. You free after shifts?" That question caught me off guard. Nobody asked me that. Not in months. We talked until Daryl yelled, "Break's over!" and I shoved the phone back in my pocket. The next few nights, our chats got more frequent. She'd send me selfies at midnight. Perfect lighting, makeup flawless. But small things bothered me. One night, under a new post of hers, an older man commented, "Damn, girl, how old are you?" Her reply, 19. Except she'd told me she was 23. I screenshotted it, stared at it. My stomach knotted. Catfish? Scam? Something worse? I asked her casually. Me. "Wait, you're 23, right?" Maya. "Yeah, of course. Why?" Me. "No reason." But I didn't believe her. Saturday night, around 1:30 a.m., she sent, "What are you doing after work?" Me. "Just going home. Mom's staying with my aunt tonight, so it'll just be me." I regretted typing that instantly. Too much info. Her reply came fast. "Maybe I should come by." I froze. My thumb hovered. Against all better judgment, I sent my address. She replied with a heart emoji. Then silence. 10 minutes later, my DMS lit up. Not from her, from 3 random accounts with less than 20 followers each. User 1. Unblock Maya. User 2. Why did you do that? User 3. You'll regret this. I hadn't blocked her, but the messages chilled me. Inside, I double-locked the door, checked the windows. Normal routine. But my nerves buzzed like live wires. I tried watching TV, but every sound in the apartment made me flinch. The radiator groaning, pipes knocking, footsteps from the upstairs neighbor. Around 4:20 a.m., exhaustion finally dragged me under. Then I woke. Not the way you normally wake. This was like being yanked out of sleep by something unseen. The room was dark except for the dim orange glow of the streetlight filtering through the blinds. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks. But no, something stood in the far corner by my closet. Tall, still. And then I saw the face. Pale, stretched in a grin so wide it looked painful. Teeth glinting in the faint light. I couldn't move. My chest locked. My brain screamed hallucination, but it didn't blink, didn't shift. The grin only widened. Adrenaline snapped me free. I bolted barefoot, crashing through the living room, flinging open the door, sprinting into the icy street. I pounded on my neighbor's door until my fists throbbed. He opened, bleary-eyed. "Jesus, Luis, what the hell? Someone's in my room," I gasped. We called 911. 2 NYPD officers searched my apartment top to bottom. No one there. Windows locked, doors locked, except the kitchen window latch was loose. No footprints in the snow. "Could be sleep paralysis," one officer said gently, jotting notes. "Happens when you wake suddenly. Hallucinations can feel real." But it was real. I knew it. The grin, that frozen face watching me. That wasn't my imagination. By morning, Maya's Instagram was gone. Not just deactivated, wiped clean. I never saw her online again. Now, every shift I work, I check the doors 3 times before bed. Because sometimes when the lights hum in that empty store at night, I remember that face in the corner. And I wonder if I locked the window well enough. Story 5. I never thought I'd be back in Willow Creek, Indiana. If you asked me 3 years ago what my life was going to look like, at 23, I would have told you I'd be living in Chicago, working some junior position at a marketing firm, maybe renting a tiny apartment with too many plants and an espresso machine I couldn't afford. But life doesn't usually ask you what you want. It just reroutes you when you're not paying attention. When my mom got sick after Dad passed in late 2020, there wasn't much of a choice. Willow Creek wasn't glamorous, but it was home. Bills stacked up fast, and with Mom's health slipping, I needed something steady. The only place hiring full-time was the Dollar Tree out on Route 19. Night shift. The first time I walked in, the store smelled like lemon cleaner and stale chips. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, buzzing like they had secrets to tell. The manager, a middle-aged guy named Craig, looked at me over his glasses and said, "It's not hard work, just boring. You can handle boring, right?" "Yeah," I lied. That's how it started. Nights blurred into weeks. The job wasn't terrible. Stock shelves, face products, mop the floors. By 11 p.m., the store was empty, except for me and Aaron, the assistant manager. He was 26, wiry, always on his phone, always laughing at something on TikTok. Most nights he hid in the office pretending to do paperwork while I worked the aisles. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept the lights on at home. The night it started was a Thursday. I remember because the seasonal aisle had just switched from Halloween to Christmas overnight, like it always did in retail. I was unpacking boxes of glittery ornaments and cheap plastic wreaths when my phone buzzed. Normally I ignored it during shifts, but the screen lit up with an Instagram DM. Username, Forever Eyes One No profile picture. Just a request that said, "Check this out." Usually I'd swipe it away. I'd had creepy DMS before. Spam bots, weird guys with emojis. But boredom makes you do dumb things. I tapped. It opened to another Instagram profile. At first, nothing seemed odd. Rows of photos, low quality, dimly lit. Then my stomach tightened. They were all girls. Not posed, not selfies, not photo shoots. Real girls. On sidewalks, on buses, waiting at crosswalks, buying coffee. Every single one of them looked like they had no idea they were being photographed. My hands went clammy. I scrolled faster. A girl tying her shoe outside a high school. Another jogging through a park. Another in the checkout line of a grocery store. The captions weren't normal either. No pervy comments. Just short clipped phrases like, good shot, 600, 950. Some were just numbers. 275,000. The accounts commenting all had blank profiles. No pictures, no followers. It didn't feel random. It felt organized. I screenshotted it and sent it to my best friend Jenna. She was one of the only people in Willow Creek I still talk to since moving back. Me, WTF is this Jenna? Why does that look like me? Me, IDK, I just got DM'd the link. Jenna, report it right now. I'm serious, I did. I tried to shake it off and kept unpacking boxes, but something about it clung to me, like static in the air. I was in the stockroom, scrolling my phone on break, when Jenna's text came through. Jenna, wait, why is there a picture of you on there? My chest went tight. I typed back fast. Me, what? Jenna, bottom row. Scroll. Hands trembling, I reopened the account. I scrolled past dozens of strangers until I saw it. Bottom right corner. It was me. Taken 2 nights ago. Locking the front doors of Dollar Tree, fumbling with the keys, wearing the green vest. The angle was from the parking lot, maybe 50 feet away. I froze. My mouth went dry. Hey, you good? Aaron's voice came from the doorway, startling me so bad I nearly dropped my phone. Yeah, I croaked. Just tired. He shrugged and went back toward the office. I scrolled again. The newest upload made my stomach turn. It was from earlier that night. Me, outside behind the store on my smoke break, leaning against the dumpster. The picture was close, too close. It looked like it had been taken through the chain link fence. I remembered hearing something, leaves crunching. I'd thought it was a raccoon. My heart hammered so loud I thought Aaron might hear it from the office. I called Jenna immediately. What the hell is going on? I hissed, pacing the stockroom. Why are there pictures of you on some stalker account? She shot back. You need to call the cops. Maybe it's some prank, I muttered. A prank? Someone is taking pictures of you at work, Emma. That's not a prank. Her words made the stockroom feel smaller, the fluorescent lights buzzing like angry bees. I told Aaron I had a family emergency and clocked out an hour early. My hands shook the whole drive home. I refreshed the page again and again until I walked through my front door. Gone. The entire account had vanished. Not just blocked, deleted. I should have felt relieved, but all I could think about were those numbers in the comments. 1,000. Not likes, not upvotes. Prices. Someone was cataloging girls, pricing them, and I was on the list. I didn't sleep. Every time headlights passed my apartment window, I flinched. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it would be another DM. The next night, I called in sick. I couldn't bring myself to walk through that parking lot, not with the thought of someone watching me through the fence. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because if they'd been that close once, they could be closer the next time. And maybe I wouldn't even see them. Story 6, I never imagined I'd still be wearing a green Dollar Tree apron at 28. When I moved back to Clearwater, Oregon, after finishing an art degree in Portland, I told myself it would be temporary. A paycheck until I could live off commissions. But temporary in Oregon, like most places on the West Coast, has a way of sticking. Rent climbed faster than my sales, and a few months at the register quietly stretched into 4 years. Our Dollar Tree sat on a tired stretch of Cleveland Avenue, tucked between a payday loan office with security glass and a liquor store that smelled like old beer even from the parking lot. The asphalt was cracked, weeds pushing through faded yellow lines. Every night when I dragged the trash to the dumpster, I'd see the neon Easy Cash sign flicker against the dark. Half its letters burned out, so it only read, Easash. Creepy without even trying. I grew up 3 hours east, in a small town called Maple Falls. My parents, Dave and Willow, were what most people would politely call old-school hippies. We had dream catchers in every doorway, kombucha fermenting in mason jars on the counter, and a shelf of crystals my mom swore cured everything from strep throat to chickenpox. My childhood was beaches, incense smoke, and endless talk about energy and love. They meant well, but it didn't exactly prepare me for the uglier corners of the world. By my mid-20s, reality crashed in. Depression hit me like a brick wall. Positive affirmations didn't fix the mornings I couldn't get out of bed. Therapy did. So did antidepressants. And when I needed something to keep my hands busy, I came back to art. Before depression, my art was light, oceans, portraits, flowers. But when my thoughts darkened, so did my work. I started sketching warped faces, twisted anatomy, figures caught somewhere between human and something else. To my surprise, people loved it. My Instagram, once a quiet corner with 200 followers, exploded past 20,000. A design I called the Pizza Demon, a horned creature drooling molten cheese, made me a few $100 on t-shirts. It wasn't rent money, but it kept me hopeful. So I balanced it. Morning stocking shelves, afternoons at the register, nights sketching in my studio apartment above a laundromat on Henderson Street. Not glamorous, but it was mine. That balance cracked the day he walked in. It was a Wednesday, late October, still warm enough that we propped the front doors open for air. The breeze only carried the sour mix of asphalt and cheap liquor from next door. I was at the counter, elbows on the scanner, scrolling Instagram between customers. The chime over the door went off. He walked in slow, tall, lean, skin pale enough that under the fluorescent lights it looked almost gray. His hair was dark and messy, but styled like it was intentional. He didn't grab a basket or cart, just drifted through the aisles with his hands clasped behind his back, studying the shelves like they were museum pieces. Eventually, he came to the counter and set down a single item, a plain black sketchbook. "You draw?" he asked. His voice was low, deliberate, like he measured every word. "Yeah," I said, scanning the barcode. "Mostly darker stuff." His eyes narrowed. Not suspicious, but like I'd passed some test I hadn't known I was taking. "That's good. Most people are too scared to be honest in their work." I gave a polite smile, though I felt a prickling at the back of my neck. He slid over a crumpled $10 bill. As I reached for change, he added quietly, "You should post more. Your page, it's the only one I've followed in years." My hand froze mid-motion. I hadn't told him my name, let alone my Instagram handle. Before I could speak, he gave a faint smile. "I'll be in touch." Then he turned, walked out, and left the sketchbook behind. That night, I got a new DM. The account was called Eli Works. No posts, no followers. Profile picture, a solid black square. "Nice meeting you today. I have a proposition. I'd like to commission you. Name your price. No restrictions." Normally, I'd be ecstatic. Commissions were gold. But the fact that he tracked me down that fast made my stomach knot. Still, rent was due. I threw out my lowball rate, $80. "You're undervaluing yourself. I'll give you $1,200. Draw whatever comes to mind when you think about hunger." I stared at the screen. Hunger? I didn't ask what kind. I didn't want to. "Deal," I typed. For the next week, I worked on it every night. The sketch became a figure with a mouth stretched impossibly wide, teeth jagged and filed, its stomach sewn shut with thick black thread. I posted a censored preview on Instagram, sent Eli the full piece privately. Minutes later, $1,200 hit my PayPal. Beautiful. Real beauty is cruel, isn't it? That was the start. Over the next weeks, Eli messaged often, sometimes about art, sometimes about strange, almost philosophical thoughts. Pain, permanence, what it meant to be alive. He told me he was an artist too, but in unusual mediums. Always vague, always making me drag details out of him. One night he sent, "Want to see my work?" I hesitated. My gut screamed no, but curiosity is louder. "Sure." A minute later, a disappearing photo appeared. I tapped it. It was a goat's head, submerged in cloudy green fluid. The lips were carved away to expose its teeth, each etched with tiny symbols. Its eyes had been replaced with polished stones that shimmered in the light. "Is that real?" I typed. "Completely. Slaughterhouse find, modified over months. Skulls are capsules. They hold every fear and thought the creature ever had." My stomach turned. I was vegan. I'd loved animals since childhood, but I didn't want to offend him. Not when he'd paid me so much. "It's Intense. Days later, another disappearing photo came. I didn't want to open it, but the notification sat there daring me. I tapped. This time it was worse. A monkey's head, altered so heavily I didn't recognize it at first. Its eyes had been replaced with black stones, its mouth sewn shut, bulging like something inside was trying to force its way out. I locked my phone. My chest felt cold. That one's too human, I whispered out loud to myself. I can't, and I texted him. That's too human for me. I can't look at that. He replied instantly. Interesting you say that. My dream is to work with a human skull. I've put ads out. No one takes me seriously. Time's running out. My fingers trembled. Then another message. Would you help me get one? I never replied. Instead, I deleted Instagram from my phone, deleted half my posts, scrubbed anything that hinted where I lived. But at work, every time the chime rang, my stomach clenched. One night after closing, I was dragging trash to the dumpster. The lot was empty, except for a figure standing under the far streetlight. Tall, still, watching. I dropped the trash and went back inside, locking the door until my rideshare headlights finally swept the lot. I haven't seen him since. Not directly, but sometimes walking home, I feel eyes on my back. And I think about what he said. Skulls are capsules. Every thought, every fear sealed inside. And I wonder if he's still waiting to add mine to his collection. Story 7. I never thought I'd be the kind of person working the overnight shift at a Dollar Tree in a forgotten corner of Kansas. But life doesn't really ask you for permission before it reroutes everything you had planned. When I was 18, I thought I had it all figured out. I'd leave my small hometown, go to college in Denver, maybe study environmental policy, maybe even make something of myself. My mom used to joke that I'd be the first person in our family to live in a city without knowing the name of every single person at the grocery store. But life cracked open differently. My dad got sick, lung cancer, fast and merciless, and the medical bills drowned us quicker than the diagnosis. I dropped out after my first semester, came home, and started piecing together any job that would keep the lights on. At first it was the feed store, then fast food, and eventually the Dollar Tree on the edge of town, right where Highway 54 cuts through the prairie. The town's called Hollow Creek, though most people just call it Hollow, like the word for empty. It fits. Population maybe 3,000, if you count the folks out on the farms. It's the kind of place where the gas station has better gossip than the newspaper, and where nothing new ever happens. Until it does, and then everyone wishes it hadn't. I started on evenings, usually stocking shelves, sometimes working the register if we were short. The manager, Darlene, was a woman in her 50s who had this habit of sighing before every sentence, like the world was already too heavy for words. There was Lou, a Vietnam vet in his 60s who worked part-time because retirement didn't stretch far enough. And there was Casey, 19, still in high school, who thought working the Dollar Tree made her an adult. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept the mortgage afloat, and Mom liked that I was home in the mornings to drive her to appointments. Then one day, Darlene asked if I'd start covering night shifts. "You're steady," she told me. "Reliable. Lou's too old for late nights, and Casey's mama would skin me alive if I put her on overnight." I didn't like the idea. The store closed at 10 p.m., but nights meant stocking after hours, resetting aisles, breaking down pallets, dealing with the quiet. But the pay was a bit higher, and quiet didn't sound so bad. So I agreed. At first, it really wasn't. Nights were predictable. You'd unload the truck, set up end caps, mop, sweep, listen to the hum of fluorescent lights. Sometimes the highway outside would go dead quiet, and it'd feel like the whole world was asleep except you. I didn't mind. I even started to like the solitude. But then November rolled in. It was a Tuesday, cold enough that the air cut your lungs when you stepped outside. Around 10:20, just as I'd finished sweeping, the bell above the door chimed. That shouldn't have happened. The doors were supposed to be locked. I froze, broom in hand, as the woman stepped inside. She didn't look like she belonged in Hollow Creek or in a Dollar Tree at all. She was tall, with hair like silver blonde silk, wearing a cream sweater and boots that looked like they belonged in a catalog, not on cracked Kansas sidewalks. She didn't grab a basket. She didn't even look at me. She just walked the aisles slowly, fingertips brushing products but never picking anything up. On the security monitor, I caught her moving in and out of blind spots, like she knew exactly where the cameras couldn't see. When she finally came to the counter, she set down a single item, a travel-sized bottle of lavender hand sanitizer. "Quiet night?" she asked, her voice soft but precise. "Pretty much," I said. She smiled faintly. "Good. Quieter is safer." I didn't know what to say. I told her the total and she handed me a $50 bill. We didn't even take bills that large, but before I could explain, she whispered, "Keep it," and walked out without the sanitizer. I told Darlene about it the next morning, but she just shook her head. Some rich tourist on her way through. Don't think too hard. But Hollow Creek didn't get tourists. Nobody came here unless they had a reason. 2 nights later, she came back. No purchase this time, just wandered the aisles, silent, almost methodical. When she passed the register, she paused. "You ever notice," she asked, "how different places feel after dark?" I forced a chuckle. "Guess so." She leaned slightly closer. "Things move at night, things you can't see in the day." And then she was gone. That night, little things started happening. The backroom door, which I knew I'd shut, was open again. Displays were knocked over, and the air smelled faintly metallic, like iron or blood, though there was no spill, no source. The next week, just before Thanksgiving, she returned. This time she came in fast, basket full of odd items, duct tape, bleach, batteries, candles. When I rang them up, she leaned forward, her voice low. "Don't be here alone on Friday night." "Why?" I asked. Her faint smile never changed. She didn't answer. Friday came whether I wanted it to or not. Lou had called out, Casey left at 10, and by 11 I was alone. At 11:23 the door chimed, but it wasn't the woman, it was a man. Tall, broad-shouldered, hood pulled low. He didn't look at me, just moved quickly down the aisles like he knew where he was going. On the monitors, I watched him stop in the back near the stockroom door. Then he looked up, straight into the camera, and smiled. The monitor flickered. When it came back, he was gone. But the door hadn't chimed again. My stomach dropped. That meant he was still inside. I gripped the phone behind the counter, ready to dial Darlene, when I noticed something under the stockroom door, a folded piece of paper. I bent down, hands shaking, and pulled it free. In neat block letters it read, Friday, midnight. The metallic smell hit me, stronger now, thick and sharp. The stockroom door creaked open on its own, and a man's voice, low, close, spoke from the darkness. "You stayed." I dropped the phone and ran. I don't remember crossing the store, just the sound of my sneakers pounding the tile, the shattering panic in my chest. I burst into the parking lot, gasping, fumbling my keys. When I finally looked back, the lights inside glowed steady, the doors locked tight. But behind the counter glass, the blonde woman was standing, no faint smile this time, just watching the empty road beyond me, like she was waiting for someone else. The next morning, Darlene called. "Cameras went static after 11:20, she said. "No footage. Did you mess with the wiring?" I told her I quit. She didn't argue. Now, whenever I pass Hollow Creek, I don't look toward that Dollar Tree, because part of me knows, if I did, I'd see her there still, standing in the window, waiting. Story 8. I never thought I'd end up working the night shift at a Dollar Tree in Ashford, Ohio. When I was younger, I had a very different picture of my future. I used to imagine myself teaching high school history, maybe coaching JV basketball, coming home to a small place with a front porch where a dog would be waiting for me. Nothing extravagant, just steady, predictable, safe. But life isn't interested in what you picture. When my father passed away from a heart attack in late 2019, I left college halfway through my degree. My mom couldn't keep up the house payments alone. In Ashford, the town I thought I'd left behind forever, became my home again. It's one of those places you drive through on your way to somewhere else. 2 stoplights, a gas station that doubles as the best place to get coffee, and a downtown strip where half the storefronts are papered over. Everyone knows everyone, which can feel comforting and suffocating at the same time. For almost a year, I bounced between warehouse shifts, handyman work, and the occasional temp job. Rent and bills didn't wait, so when my buddy Zach told me the Dollar Tree on Ashford Street needed Night Stalkers, I took it. Not glamorous, not even what I'd call a career, but it was steady, and steady mattered. The first weeks were quiet. The store closed at 10 o'clock, customers gone, aisles still smelling faintly of mop water and cardboard. It was just me, Marlene, middle-aged, chain-smoking, talked about her kids nonstop, and Frank, our night manager. We'd unpack boxes, stock shelves, clean up, and try to finish before sunrise. Lonely work, sure, but there was something strangely peaceful about walking through empty aisles under buzzing fluorescent lights. That peace didn't last. The first time I noticed something was off, it was during a break. It was 3:15 in the morning, and we were sitting in the stockroom. Marlene was venting about her daughter's obsession with making slime kits. "She goes through glue like it's water," she said, lighting a cigarette. "I swear the price of Elmer's has gone up just because of her." I laughed and said, "Guess she's single-handedly keeping the craft industry alive." The next day, scrolling Instagram on my phone, an ad popped up for bulk Elmer's glue in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I thought it was a glitch. I even joked about it to Marlene, who shrugged and said, "That's how they get you." Phone's always listening. I brushed it off until it kept happening. A week later, Frank and I were stocking seasonal decorations. He held up one of those cheap Halloween masks, plastic, cracked smile painted crooked, and muttered, "These creep me out." My mom used to tell me they looked like something from a murder case back in the 70s. We talked about it for maybe 2 minutes. 2 days later, I'm sitting on my couch, YouTube autoplay running, when a documentary thumbnail pops up. On the cover, the exact same cracked smile mask, right down to the faded blue paint around the eyes. That was when I felt the first prickling on the back of my neck, like someone was standing behind me even though I was alone. One night, Marlene and I were behind the loading dock, smoking during break. The street was dead silent. "Doesn't it creep you out?" she asked suddenly. "How quiet this street is at night." "Sometimes," I admitted. She leaned closer. "Listen, my husband and I were talking about getting a pressure washer. Next morning, I opened Facebook and bam, same model, same price. Like it knew." I tried to laugh. "Happens to everyone." She flicked ash, eyes narrowing. "Don't think too hard about it, or you'll go crazy." But I did think about it. And the more I thought, the worse it got. My phone started acting strange. I'd wake up and find apps open I hadn't touched. I found voice recordings in my files I didn't remember making. I told myself I must have pocket dialed something, but deep down I knew that wasn't true. One night I powered up my phone to check email. For a split second, the camera indicator flickered like it was recording. Then a new sound file appeared in my downloads. I hadn't touched anything. I played it. Static at first, then my voice. "These things freak me out." Then Frank's voice, muffled but clear. My mom swore they reminded her of some old true crime case. Our exact conversation from the store, word for word. The next night, I cornered Frank in the stockroom. "You ever feel like your phone's listening to you?" He laughed once, short and sharp. "Feel like it is?" "It is. Everybody's is. Don't sweat it." "But algorithms, man. Everything's tracked. Even the store. You think mystery shopper training was for fun? They track how many times we mention products. Push ads from it." He said it like it was no big deal, but something in his tone twisted my stomach. By then, I'd noticed the white van, parked across the street when I left at 5 a.m. every morning. No logos, no plates on the front, engine running, always the same one. It never pulled into a driveway, never delivered anything, just idled, facing the store. One night, I decided to test it. During break, I told Marlene loudly, "I've been looking into antique wall clocks. Early 1920s. Oak case, Roman numerals, brass pendulum." I made sure to describe it in detail. By the time I got home, Instagram was serving me ads for antique clock auctions in states I'd never even visited. That was the night I stopped bringing my smartphone to work. I switched back to an old flip phone. Thought it would help. It didn't. 2 nights later, I was shelving cleaning supplies when the store's PA system crackled. That alone was strange. We never used it after hours. Then I froze. because what came through wasn't music or an announcement. It was my own voice. Creeps me out how quiet this street is. Word for word from my conversation with Marlene. I dropped the mop. The speakers cut out. Silence. When I told Frank, he didn't flinch. You know there are mics in the scanners, right? Store security updates. Everything's connected. But why? Play it back. He just looked at me, part warning, part pity. Sometimes it's not about selling you something. The last night I worked there, Frank called out. Marlene left early. I was alone sweeping aisle 4 when I heard a hum from my apron pocket. My flip phone. On. The screen was black, but the mic icon glowed red. I yanked the battery out, heart hammering. When I looked toward the front doors, the van was there again. This time the engine wasn't running. The driver's door hung open. I don't remember locking the store. I just remember sprinting to my car, fumbling my keys, hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped them. When I looked back, the van's door was shut. But in the dark glass of the store entrance, I swear I saw someone standing there. Someone wearing that cracked smile mask Frank had joked about. I quit the next morning. Now I keep every device I own wrapped in foil when I'm not using it. I pay cash, avoid social media, and don't keep my phone in the same room when I sleep. But last week, my old smartphone, the one I thought I destroyed, showed up on my kitchen counter. Its screen flickered to life. A sound file played automatically. My voice in the stockroom saying, "Don't think too hard about it, or you'll go crazy." Only I never said that.